Hello guys, this will be the second part of the video of the grammar on page 43. Relative clauses with extra information. Now this is what we called non-defining relative clauses in the previous courses, in the previous books, in grade 10, in grade 9 maybe, 8 also, I don't know. But in Sunrise 12, we don't use this phrase, we don't call them non-defining relative clauses. Instead, we say relative clauses with extra information, but it's the same. This type of relative clauses adds in extra information to the main clause. We separate the extra information with commas. As you remember, the full clauses, full relative clauses, or let me say defining relative clauses, is giving something necessary, something that is important, essential information. But relative clauses with extra information is giving extra information. It's not essential to the meaning of the main clause. It doesn't change the meaning of the main clause. It's only something extra. So we separate the extra information with commas. We introduce this sort of clause with who for people and which for things or animals. Now, this here is very important. We don't use that, and we don't omit the relative pronoun when it is the object of the verb. Now, we said that we can use that instead of which and who in full relative clauses. But in relative clauses with extra information, we never use that. Never, ever. We don't use that. That's very, very important. So don't forget this. This is very important because there might be questions on this. And also, we don't reduce this kind of relative clause. We don't reduce relative clauses with extra information. It means when it is the object, when the relative pronoun is the object, we don't omit it. We don't omit the relative pronoun when it is the object of the verb. Never, ever. We must use it. Okay, so very important rules. We use commas to separate the relative clause. We never use that instead of which or who. And we never reduce the relative clause. We never omit the relative pronoun when it is the object. Let's look at these examples here. Fiber optics interested NASA scientists, comma, who then used technology on Apollo. Now, the first part of the sentence, I mean the main clause, fiber optics interested NASA scientists. This is the main clause, and the main clause is already complete. This is what I want to say. Fiber optics interested NASA scientists. Finish. That's what I want to say. The rest is extra. It doesn't change the meaning of the main clause. Okay? So we separate it with a comma. We use a comma here and say, who then used the technology on Apollo. This is something else. It doesn't contribute the meaning of the first part of the main clause. It doesn't contribute the meaning of the first part. It doesn't change the meaning. It doesn't complete the meaning. This is something else, extra, who then used the technology on Apollo. That's why we separate it with a comma, because it's something extra, because it's something apart from the first sentence, apart from the meaning of the first sentence, okay, main clause. It doesn't complete the meaning. Okay, now let's look at the second example. The photophone, comma, which Bell invented in 1880, comma, was the first practical use of fiber optics. The main clause here is the photophone was the first practical use of fiber optics. And you can see that we separated the main clause and put the relative clause with extra information in between the main clause. This is why, because the relative clause with extra information is giving information about the subject, photophone. So the relative clause is giving additional information about the photophone. So because of that, I need to use the relative clause immediately after the noun that is giving information about. So which Bell invented in 1880? Bell invented the photophone in 1880. Which refers to the photophone. Which refers to the photophone. And the whole relative clause is giving information about the photophone. The information is Bell invented it in 1880. So I need to put it immediately after the subject. And I need to divide the sentence, the original sentence, I mean the main clause, the main sentence. I need to put a comma here, put the additional information, put a second comma to separate the relative clause, and then continue with the main sentence. That's important. In the first example, we didn't do something like that. Why not? Because in the first sentence, the relative clause is giving information about the NASA scientists. So NASA scientist is the object of the sentence, of the main sentence. Fiber optics interested NASA scientists. Fiber optic is the object, subject. Interest is the verb, and NASA scientists is the object. So the object in the main clause here comes at the end of the sentence. That's normal. So the information, the extra information is about NASA scientists. So I don't need to separate the main clause because the information, the noun that is giving information about, that the relative clause is giving information about, is already at the end of the sentence. So it's not fiber optics. It's not the subject. It's NASA scientist. I marked it bold, you can see. NASA scientist is what who refers to. And the relative clause is giving extra information about NASA scientists. It's at the end, already at the end of the main clause. So I put a comma and write the relative clause sentence and put a full stop at the end. But in the second one, in the second example, I need to divide the sentence. I need to divide the main clause because I'm giving information about the subject, the photophone. So I put a comma here and write the extra information and put another comma and then complete the sentence. That's also important. So if I write which Bell invented in 1880 after the first sentence is finished, that will be wrong. For example, if I say the photophone was the first practical use of fiber optics, comma, which Bell invented in 1880, that will be wrong. I need to give the extra information immediately after the noun that the relative clause is giving information about. I hope that's clear. Okay. Compare these relatives. Bell was one of the several people who were racing to invent the telephone. This is full defining relative clause, full relative clause, or defining relative clause, because the relative clause who were racing to invent a telephone is giving information about people. It's telling us exactly what people, which people we are talking about. Bell was one of several people, full stop. If you finish the sentence here with a full stop, you would ask, Bell was one of several what people, which people? The sentence is not complete. Bell was one of several people, full stop. It doesn't make sense. One of what people? So I need to define the people. I need to say what people. And this here, the relative clause, is telling us what people. Bell was one of several people who were racing to invent the telephone. So the relative clause is completing the meaning of the main clause. So we call this full relative clause or defining relative clause. The relative clause is defining the noun in the main clause. One of several people. It's telling us, it's defining what several people. So we don't need a comma here. Never ever we use a comma with full relative clauses. And this is also called defining relative clause. The relative clause adds necessary information to the main clause. No comma is used. The second example, Bell invented the telephone, comma, which became one of the world's great inventions. So we have a comma here because the relative clause is extra information. So we separate it with a comma. Bell invented the telephone, full stop. Is the sentence complete? Does it make sense? Yes, it does. Bell invented the telephone. So the meaning is complete. The sentence here does not need to be completed. It's already complete. Bell invented the telephone. The telephone, you know the telephone. You know what is the telephone. And you know Alexander Graham Bell. He is the inventor of the telephone. So when I say Bell invented the telephone, this is a meaningful sentence. It's complete. So the relative clause that I write here about the telephone will be additional information, will be extra information. It does not define the telephone. It is not the definition of the telephone, which became one of the world's great inventions, is additional information only, not the definition of the telephone. So we separate it with a comma, and this is non-defining relative clause, or relative clause with extra information. Now, again, here the relative clause adds extra information that isn't necessary to the main clause. It does not complete the meaning of the main clause. So comma is used to separate it from the main clause. I hope that's clear, that's understood. Now let's look at questions, ministry exam questions. The first one, find the wrong one out. It's asking the wrong sentence. Azat Kadir, comma, who was from Kurdistan, comma, talk about Kurdistan. Yes, according to the rules, this is a correct sentence. Azat Kadir talked about Kurdistan. This is the main clause. And who was from Kurdistan? Azat is from Kurdistan. That's additional information. It doesn't contribute to the first sentence, the main sentence. It doesn't complete it, but it is giving additional information only. When you say Azat Kadir talk about Kurdistan, that's complete already. That's a meaningful sentence already. So he was from Kurdistan is only giving additional information. So that's correct. The first one, the first choice is correct. B, this person is from Kurdistan, comma, which is part of Iraq. This person is from Kurdistan. When you finish the sentence here, you will see that this part is a full sentence. It's a complete sentence. It makes sense. This person is from Kurdistan. Kurdistan doesn't need to be defined, but we can give additional information about it. So we separate it with a comma, and we give extra information about Kurdistan, which is part of Iraq. That's additional information only. It's not the definition of Iraq. And C, Kurdistan, comma, which is part of Iraq, comma, suffered a lot under the previous governments. Again, this sentence is correct because the main sentence, Kurdistan suffered a lot under the previous governments, is a meaningful, complete sentence. And which is part of Iraq is giving additional information only. So because Kurdistan is subject in the sentence, it's at the beginning. And when I give extra information about the subject, which is at the beginning, I need to separate the sentence. I needed to separate with commas and put the additional information in between commas. Kurdistan, comma, which is part of Iraq, comma, suffered a lot under the previous governments. Okay, but in B, this person is from Kurdistan. Kurdistan is not subject. It's at the end of the sentence already, so I need one comma only, and then I finish the sentence with a full stop. Yeah, at the end. But in C, Kurdistan is the subject of the main sentence, main clause. So I need to put the extra information immediately after Kurdistan. So I put the comma immediately after Kurdistan, put the extra information here, and put a second comma, and then complete the sentence with the main clause and put a full stop at the end. So that's correct as well. D, Azad Kadir was from Kurdistan. Who he talked about Kurdistan. Who he talked about Kurdistan is supposed to be the relative clause, but there are mistakes here, as you can see. The first mistake is it is giving information about Azad Kadir. So the position of the relative clause should come immediately after Azad Kadir here. But it's at the end, so it's wrong. The second mistake here in this sentence is the pronoun is repeated. Who refers to Azad Kadir? He refers to Azad Kadir as well. Who and he refer to the same person. So we don't need to repeat he, okay? Who alone will be enough, okay? So if we want to correct the sentence, we should say, Azad Kadir, comma, who talked about Kurdistan without he, who talked about Kurdistan, comma, was from Kurdistan. Azad Kadir, comma, who talked about Kurdistan, comma, was from Kurdistan. That will be grammatically correct. But this one here is grammatically false. And question 2, choose a correct relative clause with extra information. A says, they are the people, comma, which wanted to buy our house. If there is a comma, it might be extra information. It might be. But do we have a mistake here? Let's look. Which wanted to buy? Which? Now, it is supposed to refer to the people, but we don't use which to refer to people. So that's a mistake. That's wrong. They are the people who wanted to buy our house would be correct. But you might say, people, what people? Does it need to be defined or not? Yes, in that case, I would say, in this sentence here, it's better to use defining relative clause, because when you say they are the people, full stop, the sentence is not complete. It doesn't make sense. The people needs to be defined. Okay? So A is not our answer, it's false. And B, these are the people who bought the cars. This is a correct sentence, but it's not extra information. These are the people who bought the cars. Who for people is correct, and who bought the cars is defining what people we are talking about. So this is defining relative clause. It's a full relative clause. But the question is asking for relative clause with extra information. So that's not B. It's a grammatically correct sentence, but it's not what we are looking for. Let's look at C. The people, comma, who wanted to buy the house, comma, are very rich. So according to the rules, the people, comma, who refers to the people? Yes, it comes immediately after the people, yes. Who wanted to buy the house, comma, and we continue the main clause, are very rich. According to the rules, this is a correct sentence. But I would say, again, the people here needs to be defined, so it's better to use defining relative clause instead of non-defining. So I don't mark it immediately as the correct answer. I continue checking the other choices. Now we have only one left. These are the boys, comma, that tried to enter the house. Okay, let's look. These are the boys. Again, let me say, in this sentence, I would need defining relative clause again, because these are the boys. If you finish the sentence here, you would ask, anybody would ask, what boys? I need to define what boys. So it would be better to use a defining relative clause here. So I look that there is a comma here. They suppose this to be a relative clause with extra information. They use the comma here, but they use the word that. And as you know, according to the rule, we don't use that with relative clauses with extra information. So according to the rule, there is a comma and that. So that's a mistake. This is a mistake, so our answer should be C. But again, let me remind you, this is not the best answer. I mean, it's not the best sentence because the people would need to be defined. This sentence would be better if you use defining relative clause here. But they simply wanted you to know whether you know the rules or not. So they put a comma here and they supposed this to be as extra information, and they separated with another second comma. According to the rules, who is used for people? Yes. Comma is used to separate the relative clause because it's supposed to be extra information. Yes. So we consider it to be correct. But the mistake in D is they use a comma here to separate the extra information. Yes, okay. But they use that, which is wrong. They need to say who tried to enter the house. If they use who here, C and D will be both same. I mean, both would be possible as the correct answer. But both of them need to be defining. But if one of them doesn't need to be defining, that would be definitely the better answer. But both of them here needs to be defining relative clause, not non-defining. So according to the rule, comma is used for non-defining relative clause, and two commas are used because the relative clause is put in between the main clause, and who is used for people, so that's fine. So we choose C as the correct answer. Okay. Number 3, choose the correct relative clause with extra information. A similar question. It's asking to find relative clause with extra information, or let me say non-defining relative clause. Again, we need to read the sentences one by one to choose the correct answer. Bell invented many useful things who moved from Scotland to America. There is no comma used. If there is no comma, you don't need to think in details, okay? No comma is used, so this is wrong. We don't choose it. And B, Bell, comma, that invented. So there is a comma, meaning this is supposed to be a non-defining relative clause with extra information, but they use that to refer to Bell, to refer to a person. So as you know, according to the rule, we don't use that in non-defining relative clauses. So that's wrong as well. So we don't need to read the rest. But let me read. Bell, comma, that invented many useful things. And also we need a second comma here. A second comma is also missing. There is a second mistake here. That invented many useful things, comma, moved from Scotland to America. C. Bell, comma, who moved from Scotland to America, comma, invented many useful things. That's what I said in the previous choice. This is correct. So we can mark it, but we continue reading all the choices. So we read D as well. Bell, comma, which. You can see which is used instead to refer to a person. That's wrong. We use who, not which, to refer to people. So that's wrong. The correct answer is C. And question 4, choose the correct relative clause with extra information. Again, a similar question. Again, we are looking for a sentence, a relative clause with extra information. We saw the last Harry Potter film, comma, which was really interesting. Yes, we saw the last Harry Potter film. That's the main clause, separated with a comma, and then used the relative clause with extra information. And we are talking about a film, namely a thing, not a person, which is used. That's correct. So A seems to be correct, but we continue looking, reading the other choices. B says, he finally met the man, comma, which we first visited, which is used to refer to a man. So that's wrong. We don't use which to refer to people. C, he decided to telephone Mr. Jack that was in the meeting. There is no comma used, so this is not our choice. It's not a correct relative clause with extra information. But we can correct the sentence using a comma and using who instead of that. In that case, it would be correct. Because Mr. Jack doesn't need to be defined, so a non-defining relative clause would be better in the sentence. D says, we saw the person, comma, which had earlier used the room. Yes, comma is used, but which is used instead of the person to refer to the person. So that's wrong. We need who. Anyway, we saw the person. If you say the person, it's better to use defining relative clause here, not non-defining. And choose the correct relative clause with extra information. As you can see, almost all the questions asked in the ministry exam ask the same thing. Relative clause with extra information. Okay, the old books, comma, who studied in 1990, comma, are no longer taught. Who is used to refer to the books, to the old books, so that's wrong. We don't use who to refer to books. And B, he was the one, comma, that started the project here. He was the one that started the project. Without the comma, it would be a good relative clause, full relative clause, but they put a comma here. So it is supposed to be a non-defining. But in non-defining relative clauses, we don't use that. We use which. So that's not the correct answer. C says, Professor Jack, comma, who taught me last year, comma, is now on TV. So according to the rules, this is a good sentence. It's a correct sentence. Professor Jack, comma, who taught me last year, comma, so this is our extra information, relative clause with extra information. Two commas are separating it from the main clause, and we complete the main clause saying is now on TV. So the answer should be C. And because we found a correct answer, D cannot be our choice. 6. Choose the correct relative clause with extra information. The people who are living next door come from Italy. Because it's asking extra information, no comma is used in the first one, in the first sentence, so this is not our choice. The people who are living next door come from Italy is defining relative clause. And it doesn't need a comma here. As a matter of fact, it doesn't need, because it is much better if you use defining relative clause, because we need to define what people we are talking about. And B says, I wrote a novel, comma, that was printed last week. Yes, I wrote a novel, comma. A comma is used. So we are using extra information here. We are using a relative clause with extra information. That's what is supposed. But as you see, that is used. And very important rule, we don't use that in non-defining relative clauses, so that's wrong. If you write which, I wrote a novel which was printed last week would be a perfect sentence, because we say a novel. I wrote a novel, full stop. It would make sense. The meaning would be complete. But if you say I wrote a novel that was printed last week, would be correct as well. In that case, I would explain what novel, which novel I'm talking about. I wrote a novel that was printed last week. Yes, in this one, it's a little bit on the point of view of the person who's making the sentence, who is using the sentence. Because the novel here, it says a novel, it can be defined as well as not defined. If you say, I wrote a novel, it's fine if you finish the sentence here. If you say, I wrote a novel which was printed last week, or that was printed last week, would make sense as well. Okay. But it's not our answer because there is a comma and that is used, so that's not the correct answer. C says, we talked about fossil fuels, which was the main cause of global warming. Yes, there is no comma used here. Which was used, the main cause is the relative clause. It is supposed to be extra information, but there is no comma here, so this is not the correct answer. And D says the boys, comma, who are being chosen for the team, comma, are under 9. According to the rules, it is correct. Comma is used. Who is used for the boys? That's correct. 2 commas are used to separate the relative clause from the main clause. That's correct. So all the rules apply here. So we say that our answer is D. And the last one, which one is the correct relative clause with extra information? Is the girl who is in the blue shirt your sister? That's full relative clause, not extra information. She is the one, comma, that helped us yesterday. Okay, they used the comma here, but they used that, so that's a mistake. The sentence would be better if you say, she is the one that helped us yesterday, or who helped us yesterday without a comma, because the one needs to be defined. C says the decision which was written here was made by our manager. The decision, we need a comma here, which was written here. We have the second comma, but not the first comma. So that's wrong. And D says these children, comma, who are at the fancy dress party, comma, were brothers and sisters. So 2 commas are used to separate the relative clause. Yes, correct. Who is used because we are talking about children. That's also correct. So the rules apply in this sentence. So the correct answer should be D. Okay, now the next grammar part is expressing purpose. We use, according to the book, according to what we have in Sunrise 12th book, we have 5 structures that we use to express purpose. The first structure is the infinitive form, simply the infinitive form with to build. We can use the infinitive with to talk about the purpose of something. For example, Bell used fiber optics to build his photophone. To build his photophone, that's the reason, that's the purpose, okay? So we are expressing the purpose of using the fiber optics in the sentence. And in the second structure, in order to, verb 1. Again, we use infinitive with to, verb 1. But in this structure, we also say in order. So it has exactly the same meaning with the first structure. In order to build his photophone. In the first sentence, you can say, for example, Bell used fiber optics in order to build his photophone. And in this sentence, you can say fiber optics was used to look inside the human body. In order to look or just to look, both of them have the same meaning. So the first structure and the second structure, they have exactly the same meaning. In the second one, we have extra words here, in order. And it's also possible to use the negative form in this structure. And the third one is so as to, plus verb 1 again. You see, we use infinitive with to in the first expression, sorry, in the first structure, in the second, and in the third as well. First, second, and in third. We use verb to be with, we use verb with to, infinitive with to. For example, Berners-Lee created the World Wide Web so as to share, infinitive with to again. Okay, to plus verb 1. But we have so as to share. You can also say in order to share information. Or you can simply say to share information. So the first, the second, and the third structures can interchange, but you should be careful whether the words are used correctly. In order to look, so as to share, and to build, for example. And the fourth one, so that plus somebody, or let me say a subject, SB here is subject, plus can, could, will, would is also possible. Modal verbs are used, and we can use the modal verbs in the negative form as well. And then we use verb 1 only, infinitive without to. We don't use to here. As you know, after modal verbs, we never use to. We use verb 1 only. We never use infinitive with to. We use infinitive without to. Ought to, after ought to, we use verb 1, but ought is always used together with to. Ought to, that's different, okay? We can say after ought, we can use infinitive with to. But after other modal verbs, we use verb 1, infinitive without to. He gave it to the world so that everyone could use it freely. So that everyone is the subject, could use it freely. So you should be careful with the structure in questions. So that plus we have subject, somebody, okay, everyone, and we have a modal verb, and we have a verb, base form of a verb. The last structure is for the purpose of plus verb ing. For the purpose of, you use this phrase, and then you use the ing form of the verb. This is the only structure among these that uses ing form. In all the first 4 structures, we use verb 1. But in the first 3, we use infinitive with to. 2 plus verb 1, 2 plus verb 1, 2 plus verb 1. But in the fourth one, we don't use to, only verb 1. And in the last one, we use verb ing. That's important. For example, SchoolNet was developed for the purpose of connecting schools to the internet. For the purpose of connecting schools to the internet. Okay, that's all that you have to know about these structures. If you know these structures, you will be able to answer the questions easily. If you mix them up, you might make mistakes when you answer the questions. Okay, let's look. Number 1, Bell used fiber optics, blank, transmit pictures and sound. Transmit is verb 1. Okay, so as you know, we use verb 1 in 4 or 5 of the structures. But in the first 3, we use to. But in the other one, we don't. In the fourth one, we don't. So we need to look at the choices one by one. Bell used fiber optics so as to transmit pictures and sound. Yes, that's correct. So as to transmit pictures and sound. So A is correct, but I don't choose A immediately. I need to continue because there is option C saying both of them. So I need to look at B as well. In order to transmit pictures and sound. So B is also correct. According to the structures above, so as to plus verb 1. In order to plus verb 1. So A and B both are correct. So our answer will be C. So we found 2 correct answers and we have both of them here as choice C. None of them, of course, wouldn't make sense, wouldn't be the correct answer. And question number 2. Scientists worked hard to improve the technology, blank, they, blank. Now, I see they here. They means they is the subject, somebody. So there is only one possible answer. Only one possible answer. And that's this one here. Why? Because there is the word they. So they is this one here, somebody or subject. And we have 2 blanks. We need to put the part for the first blank. And then we have a subject. And then we use a modal verb in the second blank because we have the verb here already. Use is given in the sentence already. We use a modal verb here. So let's look. So that they can use it over long distances so that somebody can, could, will, plus verb 1. So it seems to be correct according to the structure, okay? But I continue looking. I don't mark A immediately because it might not be the correct answer. We might have another better answer. So I look at B. So as to. So we don't use so as to in the structure. We use so that, not so as to. And C says so that they could. As you see here in A and C, so that is correct. And we have can and could. Both of them are modal verbs. So which of them is correct in that case? So in that case, girls, you need to look at the tense of the sentence. Let's look. Scientists worked. As we can see, the tense of the sentence is past. So because it's past, we need to use the modal verb in past as well. Could, not can, because we use can for present. But we can use could for past tense. So our answer will be C. And let's look at D for the purpose of. So in this structure, we don't use a subject. We don't use a modal verb. So D is not correct. Okay. Carla spends time with each customer so as to she could solve the problem. So that she could solve the problem would be possible, but so as to is wrong. For the purpose of solve is wrong. After for the purpose of, we need ing form. For the purpose of solving the problem, verb ing would be possible. C says so that she could be able to solve the problem. So that she could be able to solve the problem. So that, according to the structure, the rule, we have so that, we have somebody, we have a modal verb. It seems to be correct. Let's look at D. Carla spends time with each customer, the problem is solved. So none of those structures is used in D, and it doesn't make sense. So the correct answer should be C, so that she could be able to solve the problem. And number 4, Graham Bell used fiber optics. We have verb 1 here. Pay attention on the verb. The verb is given in the sentence, not in the choices. And it is in present tense, verb 1 form. So we need to choose a choice according to the verb form. So that, transmit picture. After so that, we need a subject and modal verb. So A is not correct. For the purpose of, after for the purpose of, we need verb ing. So B is not correct as well. And C says, so as to transmit. So as to, verb 1. So this is correct. It makes sense. It seems to be correct. But let me look at D as well. As long as transmit. No, we don't use this structure. We use it for time expressions. As long as is used for referring to time. And we can use it in conditional sentences. Our answer is C. And number 5, you have to wake up earlier blank on time so that you can be in. So that you can be on time would be possible. Be, because we need verb 1 after this structure, so that you can be. But being is verb 3, so that's wrong. And let's look at B. so as to be on time. So as to be on time. Yes, so as to be. Makes sense? On time. But we continue looking at this structure, our other choices. C says, for the purpose of be. After the structure, as you know, we need ing form. That's wrong. In order to being, in order to be, not be-ing. So that's also false. So the correct answer is B. Number 6, Azat Kadir went to New York, blank, talking about Kurdistan. So you can see ing from here, and we have only one structure that uses the ing, and that's, you can see here, for the purpose of. So we have one choice only that uses for the purpose of structure. So we choose it directly, and let's look at A, so as to talking, false, so that talking, false, in order to talking, false, yes. Number 7, Azat Kadir went to New York, blank, talk about Kurdistan. The same question, but they changed verb ing into verb 1 form. So you should be careful. If you, for example, memorize the questions, you should be careful. This is not exactly the same question. Verb ing is used in number 6, but in number 7, verb 1 is used. Azat Kadir went to New York, as long as, no, so as to talk about Kurdistan, yes. So that, talk, no, for the purpose of, no. So the answer is B. So as to talk about Kurdistan. Number 8, a small satellite was sent last year, blank. It could. Now you can see that in the sentence we have it, and we have modal verb, and then a verb. It means one structure only is possible. So that. Okay? So, so that it could send back television pictures. We have it in choice A. So I mark it as the correct answer. For the purpose of is wrong, so as to is wrong, that so is wrong. Number 9, I went to bed early. So I look at the verb form again. Be tired. Be is verb 1. Be is verb 1. So I need to look for a choice that has got a correct structure that uses verb 1. So that, no, because after so that I need somebody and a modal verb. In order to be, yes, that's correct. In order to be tied, the structure is correct, I mean. But I continue looking for the other choices. For the purpose of needs ing form, that's wrong. And I look at D, so as not to be. Okay, so I have B and D as correct structures. But B is positive, D is negative. The structures are correct, but one of them is positive, one of them is negative. So in this case, we need to look in the meaning of the sentence. Do we need positive or negative? Which one makes more sense? So let's look at the sentence. I went to bed early in order to be tired in the morning. Does it make sense? Do I go to bed early in order to be tired in the morning? No, of course not. So B doesn't make sense. According to the meaning, it doesn't make sense. According to the structure, it is correct. But the meaning is not correct. And D says, I went to bed early so as not to be tired in the morning. Yes, this makes sense. So I choose D as the correct answer. And number 10, I worked hard, blank, the students blank. as you see, I have got subject here and 2 blanks. It means there is only one possible choice, one possible structure, I mean. And it should start with so that. A starts with so that, and C also starts with so that. And you can see both of them uses a modal verb. So I eliminate B and D because they don't use so that. So they are wrong. I look at A and C and I try to decide which one is correct. As I said, according to the structure, if 2 answers are correct, you need to look into the meaning. The meaning is important in that case. So I look at the tense of the sentence. We worked hard. Past tense is used. So past tense would make better sense. We worked hard so that the students could be able to pass easily. This is the answer that is given in the ministry exam. But, girls, if you look in the meaning with this one, we worked hard so that the students will be able to pass easily. That also makes sense because we worked hard in the past, but the exam is in the future. So A makes sense as well. I hope they will not ask a question like this again. If they do, they should accept both of them. Okay, the next one. She is practicing day and night, blank, she can win. She can. We have subject and we have a modal verb. Again, there is only one possible structure, so that. I look at the choices and I see that so that is given in A only. I read it with the expression in the blank. She is practicing day and night so that she can win. Yes, it sounds good. It makes sense. The others are wrong. I don't need to look at them because we have subject and modal verb here. So the others won't be correct, so I'm not looking into them. And 12, we went up to the top floor, blank, we. Again, we have subject here. And then a second blank, it means we need a modal verb. So that, again, we are looking for so that. A and C are wrong. B and D have so that. So both of them are possible. And both of them have modal verbs here. The first is present, the second is past form of can. So again, I need to look into the meaning. We went up. Yes, past tense is used. To the top floor. So that we could see would be our answer. Okay? Because can is about present ability. But could is used about past ability. And because the sentence is in the past tense, I need to use the past form of can, not present. Okay, the next one. The mayor was there, blank, opening the conference. Verb ing is used. It means only one possible structure. Okay, we have only one possible structure for the purpose of. And you can see that for the purpose of is used only in one of the choices. The mayor was there for the purpose of opening the conference. Yes, it makes sense. So I mark D as the correct answer and continue. I will write down my notes in each lecture, blank, I, blank. Again, you can see we have subject here and a second blank for the modal verb, so that I can revise them easily. So that is used in A and also in D. So the thing that we need to do here is, again, to look into the meaning of the sentence. Can is present, would is past. I look at the sentence. I will write down. Future is used. I will write down my notes. So can, we use the present form of modal verb can when we talk about present or future as well. So our answer will be A. So I read the sentence. I will write down my notes in each lecture so that I can revise them easily. Sounds good. Yes. I continue. The last one. Choose the wrong sentence. Trees are being planted by the roadside so as to reduce traffic noise. Trees are being planted by the roadside so as to reduce traffic noise. The structure is correct. So as to and a verb. But does it make sense? The meaning, I mean the meaning. Trees are being planted by the roadside so as to reduce traffic noise. I continue looking at the other choices because the meaning doesn't make sense in choice A. The structure is okay, but the meaning doesn't make sense. He took the course so that he would got a better job. He took the course so that he would, we would say get, not got. So there is a mistake here. So this is not our correct answer. After modal verbs, we use verb 1, not verb 2. Okay? Got is wrong. It needs to be get. I look at C. Regular checks were made so that safety standards would be maintained. Yes, regular checks were made so that safety standards is the subject. Then we have a modal verb. And after the modal verb, we have verb 1. So C is correct. And because I found a correct answer, of course, D would be not correct, wouldn't be the correct answer. Okay, that's the end of this lesson. I hope you understood. And if you have any further questions, you can type a message to me using Viber. Goodbye for now.